Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is going to deliver his all-important election budget tomorrow night. A massive cash splash is predicted. We heard about some of that from Dave Sharma earlier, with a focus on relieving cost of living pressures, including a temporary cut to the fuel excise of up to 20 cents a litre. Joining me for his budget preview is the Australian Industry Group Chief Executive, Ines Willox. Good to talk to you again, Ines. Let's leave the politics aside. Is a big cash splash what the economy needs now?
Well, Chris, there's certainly big problems around consumer confidence at the moment, and business confidence is probably at the point of being uncertain given where we're at geopolitically, given those cost of living issues that you mentioned, the lack of people, the lack of skills are all making that hard. So we are coming out of the biggest economic downturn in a century. We're not going to just turn off the tap straight away. There is some real concern around cost of living issues, both for families and also for businesses as well. So they will need to be addressed. The issue is how the government does it, how long those measures last, and if they do keep the economy moving forward and propelling forward to the point that business will eventually be able to stand on its own 2 feet.
Do you want to see more long-lasting reform when it comes to taxation, and also when it comes to the petrol excise? It's a sort of it's a temporary measure to try and take pressure off petrol prices that may not work. Depends what happens with the international situation.
Well, that's exactly right, Chris. This is just a temporary measure. It's probably fair to call it a band-aid fix. But we do need longer-lasting reform, longer-lasting structural reform. So let's talk about the fuel excise situation, the fuel rebate situation. What we're going to see over time is, that will become even less reliable for governments, and they have to find other ways to raise a tax base. Governments are overly reliant on sort of old taxes for an economy which is rapidly changing shape. So we need to look at things around how income is taxed, how corporates are taxed, how things like cars are taxed, if you want to put it that way. Do we move to a more of a consumption model for taxes? So do you get into congestion taxes and those sort of things?
See, that's where we're headed here. When you're talking about shifting everybody to electric vehicles, or that switch happening over time, then you start talking about road user charges rather than fuel excise. And I always get the sense when we talk about this that the taxpayers are going to be screwed over. Governments aren't going to be taking less money. They're going to try and find more reliable ways to get their taxation revenue.
Well, that's what this is all about, because they're seeing a rapidly diminishing tax base, and they need to shore that up because they've got to spend money, and governments are spending more money now than they ever have historically. Now's probably not the time for them to stop, to pull the plug on that, given where we're at economically. You think about defence spending, Chris, at a time of geopolitical risk such as it is, you'd be expecting the government tomorrow night to be putting more money into defence spending and a more efficient defence spend. So this is about government needing to sort of rebase itself, as it were, for what will be some significant challenges. We're not going to sort of suddenly emerge from COVID, and all will be bright and sunny again. We're going to emerge from COVID, whenever that is, into a dramatically reshaped economy with different needs. The big issue is people. We don't have enough of them. That's why unemployment is 4% or less. It's the fundamental reason why. We just don't have enough people, so we've got to address that, and we've got to address people with the skills we need for the future too. All of this is hard work. It's not going to be solved in one budget, but tomorrow night I think is really about trying to maintain the momentum of recovery, knowing that we're going to have an election in about 7 weeks' time.
Yeah, the flag will fall tomorrow night, a checkered flag on a big race. Thanks for joining us, Ines Willox.
Sorry about the footy on Saturday.
Oh, he had to mention it, didn't he? Ines Willox, a Collingwood supporter. Yes, your boys look pretty good, Ines, and the Crows, well, we've got a bit of work to do. One of the Adelaide teams will win their first game of the season this weekend, we hope, with the showdown happening.